one place in Syria just about everyone has heard of. Damascus lays claim to being the oldest inhabited city on earth. People have been living here for at least 6,000 years. The Bible says St. Paul was baptized here. Tradition claims the head of John the Baptist is buried at this shrine. The Umayyad Mosque, one of the holiest sites in Islam, was already a place of worship in the days of Muhammad. Today, we think of Syria as part of the Middle East, ringed by hotspots like Iraq and Lebanon. But from ancient times through the Middle Ages, this region was the way station for the great trade routes coming out of Asia, bringing spices, silks, and other fabulous wealth to the West. That wealth isn't so fabulous anymore. Commerce is local now from in and around town, not from China and Europe. But some of what's for sale here in the souk, which is Arabic for market, would be familiar to shoppers from 1,000 years ago. My translator and guide in Damascus is Rula Nasrallah, a journalist, New York Times stringer, born in Damascus, who shops in the souk a couple of times every week.
Wow.
Here is where you find all the weird things. For example, they dry the skin of the snake and they smash it and they turn it to oil. And you can put it in your head and leave it for 8 hours every day. Then you will have your hair back.
Then it grows the hair back?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I tried it once for like 10 days and was really strong again.
You're kidding me. You got some hair.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Yeah, can I see this?
Smells bad, yeah?
This smells like the concentrated tincture of 1,000 dead snakes.
You have already some growing up hair.
Sadly, not happening.
What else has he got in there? Oh, yeah, dried lizard.
Yeah. Oh, it's for sexual...
Oh, yeah.
Like if you... yeah, if you need it sexually...
I don't. Yeah, it's time to move on. Going into some of these market stalls is like entering a time warp. In the Middle Ages, people crossed oceans to shop in Damascus spice markets like this one.
To me, this is what this part of the world is all about. I mean, here you have wonderful, these are Aleppian peppers, dried peppers, and all the different Middle Eastern spices.
There are other shops here in the souk that look a little more modern, but have rich traditions of their own.
Wow. Amazing.
This may be the most crowded shop we found in all of Syria. Baktash makes modest claim to being the best ice cream parlor in the world, and one of the very first.
This is crazy. You guys have been making ice cream for a long time, huh?
116 years.
116 years, not too shabby. This is a combination of gelato and ice cream, and I really have never tasted anything texturally quite like it. This is amazing. Look at that.
Like doing some rhythm. I like it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's music.
And this music makes beautiful ice cream. The raw material here is whole milk that's been boiled with mastic. That's a gum made with sap from an evergreen shrub. Then you freeze it. And then you pound the heck out of it. Simple enough, right?
All right, let me tell you something. This is really deep. The ice cream is really hard. And this weighs about 40 pounds.
The crowning touch is a stream of pistachios and cashews that's literally beaten into the mix.
This is old school.
This is the real one.
Oh my, look at that.
Mixing by pounding means you get very dense ice cream. No air bubbles, which gives this treat a sublime texture.
Can you play some music with it?
Dude, I don't know how this guy does it.
The souk is part of what's called the Old City of Damascus. When you pass from the souk into the streets of the Old City, signs of modern life mix with a tangle of ancient and medieval streets.
That's a nice olive. salty and lemony, tart and strong. Oh my gosh, look at this. He's making sandwiches with the French fries too. And as if the thing wasn't rich enough, they stuff it with coleslaw and mayonnaise. Two of my favorite things in the whole world. Kidneys and livers, especially over the charcoal. Imagine a cross between a cheese blintz with pistachio syrup all over it and cheesecake and the evil child that the two of them could make together. This would be it. Vouch for me on this because they're not going to believe me. The minute we start talking about food and enjoying ourselves, they keep handing over another treat and another treat and another treat. The most welcoming and gracious country I've ever been in.
That, even with us, the locals, it's all the time like that.
My God.
Everything was smooth sailing until we got to this cheese counter. And I got curious about the cheese that's delivered handmade by desert Bedouins.
It's very salty.
It's very salty. I took too big a bite. My God. A little bit salty?
Good.
I'm not saying it's not good. It's creamy, it's fresh, it's extraordinary, but it's like eating a salt lick. Wow.
Tomorrow, I'll head out into the desert, following one of those ancient trading routes in order to get hands-on experience about where this cheese comes from. And another experience I wasn't counting on.
We ran out of gas, and as you can see, it's a little hot and lonely out here in the desert.
Traveling east of the city of Damascus, you plunge immediately into the harsh Syrian desert. And in this desert, you can find a way of life that's almost vanished in the rest of the world. We're following one of the ancient trade routes linking Damascus with another hub city of east-west trade, Palmyra, about 200 miles to the east. I'd hate to be doing this trip back in the days of camel caravans. Midday temperatures can hit 110 degrees with no shade or shelter as far as the eye can see. Pretty harsh if you didn't have safe, reliable, modern transportation. Reliable, as long as your driver remembers to fill it up back in town.
We ran out of gas, and as you can see, it's a little hot and lonely out here in the desert.
At this point, we're more than 100 miles out of Damascus, in the middle of nowhere. Times like this remind you, with all our cell phones, walkie-talkies, and other gadgets, the fates just aren't impressed.
Let's cover that, though, because in these kind of emergency situations, it's good to know what you're doing. Who's the first person that gets eaten in the group?
That'd be one of these young guys.
Yeah, sound guy. Sound guy goes down. Sound guy goes down first. You're really, you're expendable.
In the end, we got saved by the same kind of nomad hospitality that's protected travelers in this desert for millennia. A guy passing by on a motorcycle drove miles out of his way to pick up a few gallons of gas and bring it back to us. And what really surprised our crew, the most we could get him to accept in return was a can of soda.
The guy goes and gets his gas miles away and won't take the money.
If I ever win an Emmy, I'm going to thank the nameless rider who came out of the town of Palmyra to save us.
That little bit of gasoline was enough to take us about 2,000 years back in time. The city of Palmyra once rivaled Damascus as a rich and powerful trading center. But when the trade routes shifted elsewhere, ancient Palmyra dried up and became an empty ruin. But beyond the ruins, are people still living like they did in Palmyra's glory days? While cities and empires rose and fell, Bedouin tribespeople wandered in this desert, herding sheep and goats. With modern cities offering easier ways to make a living, this way of life is evaporating in the Middle East and around the world. But with the right connections, you can still tap into it. Ghassan Saleh is a Bedouin who's made the move to the city. He's a camel breeder whose friends and clients include a family still living the traditional nomadic life in the desert about an hour west of Palmyra.
Thank you.
Here, people live and work and eat in ways that Abraham of the Old Testament might recognize. Maybe not cell phones or the satellite dish powered by a truck battery, but certainly the traditional hospitality. Fantastic. It's customary to entertain the guest with the most lavish banquet possible. That means sacrificing one of the family's goats. What happens next is the most impressive display of cutting skills I've ever seen outside of a hospital operating room. Ooh, nice. Look at that, leaving the pom-pom of the tail on. You really can't appreciate the good smell of a goat's stomach coming out of a carcass until you're in 120-degree desert heat in a Bedouin tent. That may be a Bizarre Foods record. That's about 8.5, 9 minutes, and that goat has gone from full bah to cleaned and ready to go. From here, the women take over, and it'll take about an hour to turn the goat into dinner. So in time-honored tradition, while the women work, the men relax and play. Just a traditional way out here of passing the time and entertaining a guest. Yeah, you've heard of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch or some of the other famous boy bands of the 90s. This is my group, the Oasis Kids. I'm producing them. And I get to meet Shahada Al-Hassan, the family patriarch. That means welcome. Islamic law allows a man up to 4 wives. Ah, very nice. Shahada Al-Hassan has just one, but his sons all have multiples, which explains the crowd of small children. I thought it was 1, 2, 3, stomp. 1, 2, 3, stomp. This can keep my hosts entertained for a long time. But stick around, because I will get to eat, eventually. And then I'll get up close and personal with the business end of the family goats. By the way, I didn't get any milk out of this one, but she liked the way I touched her.